Hey, welcome back to First Take. We found out yesterday that prosecutors in Kenosha, Wisconsin have decided not to press criminal charges against the officers involved in that August shooting of Jacob Blake. Now, you remember that shooting led to NBA players shutting down play for 3 days as a form of protest. Also, the NBA and MLB also postponed some of their games. So last night, LeBron James was among the players who were asked about further social causes in response to this decision.
All over America, as you've seen, we've been able to do since the summertime. All the way up into today. So we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas, continue to keep our foot on, keep the pressure on going on how we continue to create change. And like I said, and create change for, the Black community, but also just create change for the greater good. And we're looking forward to seeing what ways we can do and what we can do going forward.
It's disheartening. Truly, it's disheartening just for all the work that everybody put in, all the, just the heartache of the families involved, kids involved in the car, the city that rallied around it, the community. It's just about right and wrong. But this isn't going to be something that it can't deter, those citizens who are trying to do right, who are trying to fight for equality, who are trying to fight for the right things.
Dominique Foxworth here with us now, and we know that these athletes have really been using their platforms in such huge ways off the court as it pertains to social justice. Dominique, what do you think that these players are going to do? Like, what is the impact going to be in response to the Blake decision, and how do they move forward?
Yeah, it seems like LeBron suggesting and Wesley Matthews suggesting more of the same, which I think is surprising, given that the same hasn't warranted the results that they would have wanted in some key cases, especially this most recent one. So I would be surprised if they stopped. Like, I don't expect them to fall back, but I would not be surprised if they stepped it up a little bit and they weren't afraid to put basketball on hold while they were in the bubble in order to draw attention to this particular case, and the results were still not what they wanted. So I'm not sure what the next step is, but I think logic would suggest that what they have done up until now, it's hard to say that it's been all that effective. And I know that they want to see some results. And I think the first step is always kind of like, we want to draw people's attention to this injustice. And then once the rest of the world, or at least the rest of this country, or people who are unfamiliar with these things that are taking place, once they see it, then they'll understand and they'll work with us to do the right thing. It feels like it hasn't happened. So I'm not sure if I'm in that situation, which I'm not. I don't wield the same power as LeBron James or any of those players in the NBA. But if you've seen that once you draw people's attention to it, that it feels like the results are still going to be the same, what's the next step there? I'm not sure what it is, but I'd be surprised if they don't amp it up. Like if putting basketball on hold in the bubble wasn't enough to bring about charges in this situation, I'm not sure that it's out of the question that they might go do something like that again. I know it feels far-fetched, but if something like this bubbles up again, I think we've gotten to a point where it went from being surprised and impressed that these athletes have been carrying the mantle of Paul Robeson and Muhammad Ali to starting to feel like it's an expectation. So God forbid something like this happens again. There's another police-involved shooting that looks suspicious with a black person. We're going to come to the NBA and the NBA players and professional athletes across the country and ask them what they have to say and ask them what they're going to do, because they've created that expectation. As unfair as it is to expect that, frankly, any black person to address problems that they didn't create, like, that's incredibly unfair. It's even more unfair to ask these athletes to fix problems that they didn't create and that they are on the wrong end of in many cases. I think that's where we are as a country, sadly, that we look to them for that type of engagement. So I'm not sure exactly what's next. I know that they aren't going to give up, and I suspect that we'll continue to support them when they do these things. But if you keep doing these same things and you don't get the results that you expect, it's only logical to assume that they might want to try a different tact.
Well, how's it going to affect the sports world? Don't be surprised, Dominique. Organize, right? That's what LeBron has done. These are not just emotive issues where everyone gets, emotional and then you don't get the result you want, or maybe you do, and then everyone goes away. No, there is a method here. There is an organizational component to what's going on in sports now that I think is different than what we've seen in the past. And LeBron James is an enormous part of that, by the way, because, look, narrowly, what is this about? This is about the kind of uneven strength of police unions, right? So police unions are very powerful in this country, and they resist measures to reform and all that kind of stuff. But more broadly, this is about Black Lives Matter. Because the fact is, for most of this country's history, among much of white America, Black lives don't matter. There's a very high threshold for dead black people. Let's be honest. That's what, in a broader sense, this is about. And if you want to know what organization can do, look, athletes, shut up and dribble, right? No, athletes are saying, no, you want to watch us play sports, an area of society where many black people were for a long time relegated to entertainment, right? You're allowed to succeed there, but maybe not in other areas. You want us to just dribble? No, we're not going to shut up. And sometimes we might not even play. How do you like that? And what does organization do, and how does that affect Black lives mattering or not mattering? You see what just happened in the special election yesterday, where a black man, Reverend Warnock, won the special election against Kelly Loeffler. Why is that significant, other than what it means in the Senate? It's significant, not just a black man, a reverend, winning a Senate seat, which is exceedingly rare, by the way, in any Senate seat in the history of this country, but in the Deep South, in Georgia, and against Loeffler, who is the owner of the Atlanta Dream. The owner of the Atlanta Dream. And do you remember when she had a problem with Black Lives Matter publicly? A problem with Black Lives Matter publicly. And LeBron James started organizing and say, hey, I want to buy the team from her. Well, much bigger than just whether a police union had enough pressure on them or exerted too much influence, or whether in this one case justice was served, is the fact that structurally things can change and enormous political events can happen. In fact, Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor herself of the same state a couple of years ago and is a kingmaker in Georgia now, had a lot to do with Reverend Warnock being elected, has said recently that she traced her roots. I saw this on social media. She traced her roots from the great-great-granddaughter or great-great-great-granddaughter of slaves to the great-great-granddaughter of sharecroppers, etc., all the way up to the present day, and said her job is now to create a space for people who have been told essentially that that's not you. You can't be that. And she says, no, you can be, right? So LeBron James is kind of organizational efforts, and not simply being fly by the seat of his pants, but trying to have a strategy, a broader strategy to affect change, I think has been excellent. And you will not get justice in this case, apparently, and maybe not, and probably not in many cases in the future, but because of efforts like LeBron's, it will be moving in that direction. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, the moral arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice.
We do have to get to a quick break, but Dominique, I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond to that right when we get back. There's a lot more to cover as far as this conversation is concerned, so that will be coming up. But also, we have still so much more to get to right here on First Take. One of the Eagles players is speaking out against their head coach after Jalen Hurts was benched, and he does not hold back. Hear what Max said.